Hi, and welcome to the Switch Show. My name is Maliseh Chinonye, and I am the host. If this is your first time listening, thank you for tuning in. And yeah, let's get into it. So, title of, as you've probably seen by the title, you're wondering to yourself, or you're thinking to yourself, is there such a thing as calculated failure? How can you calculate failure per se? But yeah, that's the reason why this podcast exists. That's the reason why I'm having this conversation with you guys. Anyway, so when you think about failure, what comes to mind? What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about failure? Chances are you think that failure spells the end, or when someone fails, it is the end. Okay, I'll give you an instance. I'll give you myself as an example. Growing up, I was always an A plus kid. Always, like, this is not to brag, but I was always better than all of my peers from primary school, at least. Let's say, yeah, from primary school, because we don't want to count nursery school children. We're just trying to figure out what A and B was. So from primary school, I was better than I was always top of the class. At the end of every session, I was always top of the class, and it continued like that till I got to JS3. If you're Nigerian, you're familiar with the concept of JS and SS, to junior secondary school and senior secondary school. So I got to JS3, and then my mom and dad contemplated, and I'll talk about how it took guts, it took bravery, it took a lot of tears for me to finally accept to change schools. So my mom and dad they urged me to change schools, because I wanted to go to a boarding school at 10, but my mom was saying, like, it's a ridiculous idea to send a kid to a boarding school at 10. And a lot of people went to boarding schools at 10, which to me, I think it's not really nice, because that child's brain is, and even at 13, the whole idea of concept of boarding school, it can be alarming sometimes. But I understand why people go to boarding schools, probably because of distance. They want to send their child to a good school, and it's so far away, so boarding school is like the best, and it does help. But in a child's formative years, that's in their adolescence, it's always good that they have proximity to respectable and respected adults, and not their peers that are running off of the same hormones that they are running off on. Anyway, so they sent me off to boarding school, and then that was one of the first times in my life, or will I say that was the first time in my life I was experiencing some form of failure. And not to say that I was getting, you would hear this now, you'd be like, that's such a tragic story from A to F. No, my own idea of failure was being a C student, and then there were people that were confidently and comfortably C students, and when I got a C, I was clamoring and shouting, and this is not my original score. I would debate, I would protest, and they looked at me and were like, you got C and you are crying. Other people that got F, I'm like, I am not like you guys now. I don't settle for C. They'll be like, sorry, no verse. But I didn't say to them like that, but in my mind I would always think, I'm not like you guys now. I'm not a C student. I'm meant to be an A student. Even a B was, I could go for a B, but C was unacceptable. It was entirely unacceptable. And why it was like that is that I don't think I adequately prepared myself. Thinking about it in retrospect, I don't think I adequately prepared myself for an event where I would experience some form of failure, and it greatly affected a lot of things and a lot of decisions in my life, because I never experienced failure, and failure felt like the end of my life. For someone that was so excellent in church, they'll call me man of God because I could memorize memory verses. I could I was a champion in recitation alongside my friends. I was skilled at a lot of things. At home, I was praised for my eloquence, praised for my composure, charisma, courage, and whatnot. Primary to junior secondary school, I was seen as top excellence, like the Don. I was literally almost the king of my school. If it was an empire, I would have used my intelligence to rule over everybody, because I was so high up. But when I experienced failure for the first time, I felt like my world had turned upside down. I was like, is this how it is to be a C student? Is this how it feels to not know anything? But why am I saying all of this? At some point in our lives, we are bound to experience some form of setback or failure. But what if you consciously, in quotes, plan to fail? They say if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. What if you actually plan, in quotes, to fail? And this is not that you... It's a very... When I was writing this, I had the idea of project management. I did a little bit of project management, the project management professional course. So it's part of, project management. But when I thought about it, I said, what if we plan to fail? I'm planning to fail. It kind of goes with one of these sayings that they say, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. You have expectations that whatever I'm going to do is going to turn out right. For example, a business, you embark on a new business venture, you have your vision and mission statement all planned out, you have your capital, you have location, you have your entry point into the market. If it's a saturated market per se, you know where you're entering from. If it's a new idea that you're propagating or you're postulating, you know where your entry point and your exit point is. How the nooks and crannies, the intricacies of the market. Whatever it is, at some point you might experience some financial setbacks. So if you have not planned ahead of time, you could be forced to declare bankruptcy because you're not able to keep up with the recurring expenditure. Okay, so similarly, it is that way for life. And I feel like many times some principles we use for other things can apply to our everyday lives. Like I said, preparing or planning ahead when you experience financial setbacks as a result of accumulated recurring expenditure, or an increase in cost of production, or a increase in demand but decrease in supply, that type of thing. What if we put these principles that we learn for businesses into our everyday mundane activities? What if? That is what I mean by what if we consciously, in quotes, plan to fail. Okay, so in my notes I wrote, businessmen and entrepreneurs talk about taking calculated risks, but what if you make calculated failures? Now, this might look like a very pessimistic episode, but I promise you, I'm not trying to spread pessimism. I'm trying to tweak your perspective a little bit, if I may. I'm trying to let you see an angle to failures, an angle to disappointments that you may or may have not seen before. Do you understand? Okay, so one of the tenets of proper project management and execution is risk areas with contingencies. Now, being the podcaster I was, when we had this class on project management, and the teacher or the facilitator, the lecturer, was teaching, and he said, he was talking about project execution and project management, and he said one thing that every proper project manager should do when there's the evaluation, there's project control, there's the resource management and whatnot. So when you've pulled everything together, when you've put everything in a box, or you've measured everything according to its own brackets, if you fail to plan for risk areas with contingencies, aka plan Bs, chances are your projects would fail. And he made us understand that that is the reason why many projects fail. And I can say that is the reason why New Year resolutions, goals, objective, dreams, aspirations fail, because we are not used to the idea of failure. We are not used to the ideas of setback. Now, hold up. This isn't to tell you that you should get used to failure. No, you shouldn't be someone that says that wears failure as a badge. No. If you fail, if you keep on failing, it means there's something wrong. There's definitely something wrong. Okay, but what this is not encouraging you to wear failure as a badge. As I said, is you striving for success, but understanding that failure is not always a hindrance to success. Many times failures are pointing in a different direction to what you are originally used to. It's like, take for example devotional fervency or devotional fervor. You don't set alarms for prayer. Let's put it like that. You rely on yourself and say, okay, when it gets to this certain time, I am so meticulous. I've calculated the hours in my head. I know when the sun shifts and I know when the sun positions that it is 3 p.m. So I'm going to pray by then. And then you're so caught up with work or something of leisure or whatever it is, whatever activity you're caught up with. And then when it gets to that time, you're like, God understand, I will do it another time. And then it becomes an endless cycle of God understands. So that in itself, maybe you take this the wrong way, but take this with a grain of salt or a plate of rice. Depends on your diet. Prayer is like a project. I didn't say it's like a project. Yes. What is the aim of the project? To communicate with God, to build intimacy with your creator, to fellowship with the one who created you, and to receive guidelines and direction on how to fulfill purpose. That is it. What are the resources? My time, words of my mouth, a clean and clear mind and heart, worship music, sermons, or people per se. People that could be church or friends or a friend. What are the risk areas and how do you plan to mitigate them? Okay, you say, okay, the risk areas are, my phone could be dead, so I will not be able to play a sermon or listen to music. My friend might not be I might not be able to go to church, so I would have to have a friend close by. Or it could be anything. I'm just trying to paint a picture. I hope you get. It could be anything. So then when you weigh out all these options, say, okay, how do I plan to do it? Okay, since Nigeria's power supply is always unpredictable and you cannot depend on it, I'm going to get a power bank to support my phone. I'm going to use my phone in the daytime, charge it as much as possible when there is power, and when there is none, I'd rely on my power bank so that I can pray in the early hours of the morning or late at night before I go to bed. I'm going to call my friend hours before time so that they can make time available. Oh, I can't go to church because I'm going to I can't go to midweek service because I'll get back from work late, so I will stream it. Later on. Worship music. Oh, I have to create a playlist of songs that stir up the atmosphere and whatnot. So this is not just restricted or separate or particular to only prayer and Bible study. It pertains to everything about life and godliness, business, career, routines. Because many times the reason why I feel like routines fail, I'm not really a person of routines. I have routines, but I'm not really a person of routines. Routines feel very forced and feel very unidirectional, and I'm a multidirectional person. At any point in time, I could do something else. So I'm not really a fan of routines. That doesn't mean I don't like my things properly structured. I like structures. I put certain structures by God's grace, and through learnings I've learned to put some structures, but making it too rigid can be detrimental. Kind of have a flexible structure. So yeah, I've just talked about in essence what it is. So I said, now, in what are calculated failures? I've not defined it. So in my opinion, in my humble opinion, calculated failures are carefully thought out and meticulously crafted loopholes that provide some form of balance and buffer in the execution and achievement of goals and objectives. Excuse me. Did we get it the first time? Did you get it the first time? Recap. Calculated failures are carefully thought out and meticulously crafted loopholes that provide some form of balance and buffer in the execution and achievement of goals and objectives. It's a very simple definition. Carefully thought out and meticulously crafted loopholes. It means that you put these things in place. Say, oh, what if I can't do this here? What would I do next? And you just kind of put the structures in. Now, where this applies to especially is the natural order of life. But when it comes to hearing from God, when it comes to depending on God, you shouldn't be putting out. What you should be concerned about is when God gives you an instruction. Yeah, it can also apply anyway. When God gives you an instruction, you think, what could hinder me from achieving or from obeying this instruction or from going through with it? Because when God gives an instruction, it is His will, it is His purpose for your life. But if you don't obey it, it will just stay there. It will be there lying in wait, and He could even give it to someone else because He needs it done. And He depends. I don't say He depends, but He relied on you. He confided and found you trustworthy to handle that thing. So when it comes to God's instructions, will and purpose and every other thing in between, when it's given, it's how do I execute? What would stop me from executing this? How do I stop these things from stopping me from executing this? Okay, so that's basically the whole idea of calculated failures. Carefully thought out and meticulously crafted loopholes that provide some form of balance and buffer in the execution of goals and objectives. Yeah, so that's been it. I hope this conversation with you has done something, at least like it did for me. It was something to think about when I was writing about this. I actually had this is actually an older topic. I've had it written down almost a year now, in February of 2023. I have some other topics that I want to bring about. It just didn't feel right. You have to work with the Spirit to know what He wants you to say, what He wants you to put out at a certain time. But yeah, I hope this has blessed you or helped you in a way to know how to manage and mitigate failures and not see failures as a hindrance many of the times, even though they can be, but they're not often hindrances. They can be stepping stones, they can be ladders that take you to where you want to go. All right, so yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Before we go, make sure to like. I think you can like, or just leave us a rating. I think this is on Spotify. Leave us a rating. There'll be a comment section down there. Tell us your thoughts on the episode, your takeaways and whatnot. Reach out to us on Instagram at theswitch.show, or you reach out to me on my own personal Instagram page at Maliseh Chinonye. That is MALISEHCHINONYE. That's my own personal page. You can reach out to us, tell us what you learned, if you have any questions, and yeah, we'll be happy to talk to you. Well, till next time, flip the switch and illuminate, and I'll see you on the next episode. God bless you. Arrivederci.